Hi, it's Morag from our Permaculture Live and the Permaculture Education Institute, and welcome back into my garden for another live. Now, it's Plastic Free July, and throughout this month I'm going to be talking every day about something really simple that we can do to shift our thinking or shift our actions about how we can have less plastic in our lives. Now, 40% of the plastics that are created in the world relate to packaging, and we have a dreadful situation of, 90% of the seabirds in the world having plastic in their guts. Microplastics are throughout the ocean and throughout our guts as well, and also some studies have shown that actually in the soil there's a possibility that even the plants are taking them up. So how can we actually reduce it? Now, one of the things we can do is actually think differently about the sort of plants that we grow or buy when we're out and about. And so pumpkin I really love, because not only does it have its own packaging, but the packaging is edible. So those of you who've seen me talk before, you know how much I love pumpkin and how I talk about how you can eat every single part of the pumpkin. But what do you do about eating the packaging of the pumpkin itself? Well, you can just add it in to the soups or stews or curries as well. Just leave the skin on. Or if you do want to peel it, maybe you can toss it in to make some kind of stock, veggie stock, or perhaps you might want to roast it and have the pumpkin with its skin roasted on. It's absolutely delicious. And one thing I really like to do too is to take the skins and just toast them separately, maybe in a sandwich press even is a simple way. It only takes a couple of minutes. Drizzle a little bit of oil on it and maybe a sprig of rosemary from the garden or some oregano, maybe a garlic clove, and then press it down. And after a couple of minutes, they're really nice and soft and a little bit crispy on the edges. And then you can actually use them as dippers. So this has a double bonus of not having packaging on something that you bring in, but also making something that can be used as a dipper and not using dip biscuits, which come always in those kind of double plastic wrapped packages. So looking at ways that we can choose to refuse, ways that we can diminish the packaging and the waste that we bring in, and it helps us to decouple from the kind of the industrial food system and look differently, eating more simply, eating more locally, thinking about how we can just eat food as it comes without all the extra processing and packaging and transportation and embodied oil and embodied energy and then the waste that creates. So these simple actions, while they seem quite simple and maybe even tiny, actually when you think of it in a sort of a whole systems perspective, they really do make a difference, particularly because it helps to shift our way of thinking. And when we shift our way of thinking, everything changes. So join me again tomorrow for another live in the garden and looking at another way that we can decouple from plastics this